Oh, hello there. Thanks for coming to X Witness Awake. I'm Jonathan. We have reached the end of the bite model, so I have some Di Serono on the rocks. Just a little bit of a celebration. We're finally going to reach the end of the bite model. I'm excited. At first, we should probably run the intro, so. So, as I mentioned, we will be covering emotion control, which is the last part of the bite model. So let's just get right into it after I have a drink of my Di Serono. I love this stuff. So the first part that it talks about, size on my mouth. First part that it talks about is manipulate and narrow the range of feelings. Some emotions and or needs are deemed as evil, wrong, or selfish. So everybody has emotional needs, everybody has physical needs, and they want you to just sort of squish those. What can you think of that would be considered evil, wrong, or selfish? Well, probably one's urges, of a certain nature. They're not going to want you to do anything about that. They're going to want you to squish that and just be a little robot and just do good for the organization. So yeah, this would be certain things that they're not going to want you to feel. The next one it talks about is teach emotion stopping techniques to block feelings of hopelessness, anger, or doubt. This one is listed in orange, so as if you've seen the other videos, red is one that is everybody in the group, orange is some people in the group, and green is everything's okay, nobody in the group does this. This one is orange. So I'm trying to think of what specific groups it would be, or people in the group, subgroups it would be, that they would be teaching emotion stopping techniques to block feelings of hopelessness, anger, or doubt. I would say somebody who has come to the brothers and is talking about the fact that they are feeling emotionally distraught, or they just feel like they can't go on, and they're going to want you to try and say, here, read the scripture and trust in God, and put it in Jehovah's hands. Just have faith in the organization and the governing body and what they're saying. You have doubts? Don't have doubts. Read this, you'll feel better. You won't have doubts anymore. But that's not really going to fix the doubts. Just throwing, a list of articles at you. I remember when I was dealing with some things and they were trying to encourage me. Literally, this elder gave me a list of like 15 articles just saying, Watchtower this year and this page. Here you go, read this. I'm like, that's not super helpful. I mean, I could do that on my own. I don't need you to list those for me. But I guess he had good intentions anyway. But so they want you to try and block those feelings that you might be having. The next one to mention is make the person feel that problems are always their own fault and never the leader's or the group's fault. So here's an example. I think I mentioned it before, the 1975 thing. While they did have these in talks and in publications, they tried to gaslight and change things around so that it's a group of brothers who were saying these things, and we don't endorse that, but you were the ones that were doing it. You're the group of brothers that were doing it, from 1975. So they're never going to admit that they are wrong. You're never going to find a talk where Jeffrey Jackson or Stephen Lett or somebody comes out and says, we made a mistake, we were wrong, and we're officially saying that we're sorry for this thing that we did or this thing that we said or this rule that we put out that hurt people. They're not going to do that because they're too proud to do such a thing. So it's always going to be somebody else's fault. It being somebody else's fault, that includes you. So if you say something that they don't like, you could say, hey brothers, why are you allowing child molesters in the congregation, not doing something about it? Well, that's just apostate propaganda. It's their fault for saying such things. No, it's your fault for allowing such things to happen. So yeah, it's always somebody else's fault. I didn't do it. They also say, the next one is promote feelings of guilt or unworthy. Let's try that again. Promote feelings of guilt or unworthiness, such as identity guilt. This one is marked in orange, so that says to me that it's only going to be certain people. So identity guilt, that would probably have to do with people, for instance, who are actually gay, someone in the LGBTQ plus community. Well, they're not yet. They're not in the community, but they're hiding this. They're feeling guilty for who they are, feeling unworthy because this is what the governing body is saying about them. And unfortunately, some people don't survive that feeling, and they end up being another statistic, and it's a sad thing to have happen. It shouldn't happen. The next one I mentioned is you are not living up to your potential, and that's in red. So that is something that they say about all Jehovah's Witnesses, is you're not doing enough. You can do more. It's funny though, because they had pioneers as having a large amount of hours they had to get, and they have gradually shrunk it down. I think because it's too much, but even though they shrink things down, they still want you to do more. So it's kind of a weird thing to do, but they basically, you could be doing the most possible, and they're not going to be happy with that, and they're going to ask you reflect on your personal circumstances. Could you do more? At a certain point, you just can't do more. That's enough. And they make you feel like you're just not good enough. And I know that's something, even myself, I was never a pioneer. I think I auxiliaried once for a little bit. But I did things in the congregation. I helped with literature. I helped with the microphones. I adjust the sound. I was an attendant. I did parking in the assemblies and whatnot. And there's still more that I could have done. So even though that seems like a lot, in their eyes, it's not. It's just the bare minimum. As a brother, you should be reaching out to become an elder and become a ministerial servant, and then become an elder, and then circuit overseer, and whatever else. You always want to keep climbing up and doing more, but why? Not everybody can do that. Why should you make people feel like they're just not good enough because they're not putting forth that extra effort? Not everybody can do it. So anyway, the next thing I mentioned on the list is your family is deficient, and that's in orange. So I can only assume that is going to be from, maybe you have a low income family, you have no person of authority in your family, no elders or ministerial servants or anything like that. You're just sort of poor, as it were, because you're struggling to survive, and you're giving your coins to the contribution box, and they will make you feel like, they're not going to say like you're poor and gross, but people might treat you a little differently, unfortunately. Just because you don't have a lot of money doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't make you deficient in any way. It just means you don't have a lot of money. So what? But they can make you feel like you're not good enough. Another thing to mention is your past is suspect. So I assume, and that's something in orange as well. So I assume that has to do with, let's say you had a shady past. and that might come up in conversation of the way that people will treat you, because you didn't come from, you weren't like a third, fourth, fifth generation Jehovah's Witness who have, business owners in their family and lots of money and, are known well in the congregations. You might just be a single person that was baptized, and who knows, maybe you stole cars when you were younger and you made mistakes in your past. Is that something that they're going to forgive and forget? Or is it going to come up and they're just going to be like, you're shady? I don't know. That's something that could happen. Mentions your affiliations are unwise, and it is listed in orange as well. I don't specifically know what that is. Your affiliations are unwise. Could that be, your worldly associates and friends that you had before? I don't know. I'll have to give that one some thought. But as you've seen, I don't want to dwell too much on stuff I'm not sure about, so I'm just going to barrel through. And, if it's something you can think about, and maybe you can come up with the answer yourself, and something I'll think about and see if I can come up with the answer. It says, your thoughts, feelings, actions are irrelevant or selfish. Well, if you're not doing everything for the truth, then you're doing it for yourself, right? So to just have a normal life would be considered selfish. My having, going to work and taking care of a business and taking care of family and things, I don't go to a Kingdom Hall. I don't go to a church. It's not something I'm interested in doing. To them, that would be very selfish. To me, that is just living life. And, I try and get some enjoyment out of life. I don't have room for those type of meetings, and I'm not interested in them. So that is just my personal feelings. And, some people will take the time to go to church. Some people, go to a lot of meetings, and that it's not something for me. I've been there, done that. I don't want to do it. And I don't care if they think I'm selfish or not. But that's what I'm doing. So next one it mentions is social guilt, and then it mentions historical guilt. So social guilt is in red, and historical guilt is in orange. I'm not entirely sure what is meant by social guilt. If it's something that all Jehovah's Witnesses are manipulated with, then I guess it would be you are made to feel guilty if you get involved with the world. They want you to stay separate from the world. So if you put too much effort and time into things like, your people you work with, your workmates, your friends at work, they're not going to be too happy. They're going to really discourage the fact that you might have conversations that don't revolve around the Bible and revolve around trying to peddle some literature on them. They're not going to be happy if you're going to decide to go out for coffee afterward, or go out to a movie with them or hit a bar. So they do make you feel guilty if you are social with people who are not of your circle of witness friends. Historical guilt, it mentions that is an orange. What would that be? I don't know. I'm not afraid to say I don't know. Historical guilt. Well, it's only going to be certain groups, certain people. I don't know. I will have to look that up. I'm just going to have a drink. I don't have all the answers. I'm really glad I don't have to go door to door talking about stuff anymore. I hated that stuff. I hated field service. It was so boring, and I just didn't have answers. I just had what was in the magazine and a couple of scriptures that I might prepare. But as far as having a debate about doctrine or scripture, I'm just not. It's not for me. So you're basically in these videos. You're going to get what you're going to get. I'm not gonna spend 6 hours heavily going into detail about prophecies or whatnot. I will check some things, but I'm not gonna. So I'm honest, and that's what you get. So, okay, going on. It says, instill fear, such as fear of thinking independently. Ah, yes. That's one of the reasons why they don't want you to go to school. They know that if you go to college or university, one of the things they're going to do is they're going to teach you philosophy. And that is a thing that is designed to teach you how to think for yourself. And they do not want you to think for yourself. They don't want you to think independently. They want you to be a sheep, a clone, a robot, a parrot, to just parrot what they're going to say and not really put any independent thought into it. Instill fear of the outside world. So yes, the world is evil and horrible, and look out, you're going to get mugged as soon as you leave your door. It's okay. Yeah, there are some things in the world that are not great. I can admit that. And, there are problems. We live in a dangerous world, it's true. But it is not like a war zone, and it is not that bad. There's a lot of good in the world, and they're not going to tell you that. The only good in the world they see is their groups. They don't see the good in worldly people. Let's see. It says, instill fear of enemies. So, let's think. Who might be an enemy of Jehovah's Witnesses, of the governing body? Might it be I, an apostate? Yes. So they put a lot of fear into enemies, or fear of enemies. So they just make apostates out to be, evil monsters, just second to Satan himself. But we're not. There's different degrees. There might be people who are ready to, burn down society. And then there's people who just get on YouTube and talk about things, or not even go that far, who just have conversations and, relate their stories. They're not your enemy. If you're a Jehovah's Witness and you're watching this, I'm not your enemy. I have great respect for the people. Just like anything else, there's good and there's bad. There's good and there's bad. There is good and bad in all groups, I think. And that includes Jehovah's Witnesses. Yeah, but a lot of them are great people. And, I had a lot of good friends, and I wish I could have those friends back. That's not going to happen, but I'm not out to hurt anybody. I just want to inform people, and that's what a lot of us want to do. We just want to let people know, let them think for themselves, prepare them with a little bit of knowledge so they can make informed decisions and hopefully make a good one. If I saw somebody in the street who looked like they needed help, like they were injured, I would stop and help them, right? I'm sure you probably would too. The other day there was a homeless person, and I didn't have any money, but I had my bank card, so I went through McDonald's and I bought him a couple cheeseburgers and a hot chocolate because it was real cold out, and it's the least I could do. Those are just minor, easy things to do. I see people who are going into Jehovah's Witness organization or similar organizations, and they are being hurt. They are being negatively affected, and I hate that. I hate that to happen to people. So I'm going to continue to speak out and inform and, give my little bit of experiences that I can, just some thoughts, and hopefully it will have an impact on a few people, and they'll think twice about joining Jehovah's Witnesses, or somebody who is thinking, I don't know if this is for me, might think twice and decide to get out. And I really hope that I can be able to be that little push that they need to get themselves to go out the door so that they can live a better life. I feel like I've gone off the beaten path here. But anyway, continuing on. Next was this: instill fear of losing one's salvation. That is definitely something they use. There's always a talk about how soon Armageddon is going to happen. And if you're not one of Jehovah's Witnesses, then you're basically screwed. If you leave the organization, well, that's the next point, leaving or being, and still fear of leaving. So that goes together, because obviously if you leave, you've lost your salvation in Jehovah's Witnesses, right? It's something that affects people. I know I have had feelings in the past of like, am I making the right choice? Did I screw up by not going back? It didn't stick around long. So yeah, they definitely are plagued with feelings of despair and, worry about, am I going to be caught up in Armageddon? Even though you realize it's not true, you don't believe it anymore, but it's still there because it was something that they drilled into you at a young age. So it's tough to shake those feelings. The next one is talking about extremes of emotional highs and lows, love bombing and praise one moment, and then declaring you a horrible sinner. Yes. So you get taken to the Kingdom Hall, and they go, "Oh, we love you, you're great. Come here, become one of us." And then brother so-and-so has been reproved. Oh, okay. We don't love you as much. And then you're disfellowshipped, and then they treat you like you're dead. So, yeah. So it's one minute everything's great and they love you so much, and you're a brother or you're a sister, and then the next minute they're saying you're a horrible sinner. So yeah, I can feel that. The next one talks about is ritualistic and sometimes public confessions of sin. Now this one is in orange. I don't exactly know what they mean by that. A confession of sins makes me think it's okay. So this is, I would assume, is talking about when you have some sort of an issue where you've committed a sin. You can't keep it to yourself. You have to talk about it. So you have to go and approach the brothers, and you have to say, I did this thing, and then they pray over you and they give you some scriptures, and if it's not too serious, or they go, oh, well, that's pretty serious, so we're gonna have to bring another brother in here, we're gonna have a committee, and we talked about it, and out you go. So that's, public confession of sins to these two elders or three elders in a back room. So this next part, it says, in phobia indoctrination, inculcating irrational fears about leaving the group or questioning the leader's authority. So it mentions no happiness or fulfillment possible outside of the group. So yes, they basically say that, this is the happy place and this is the place to be, And if you leave the organization, well, then horrible things are going to happen to you. And it mentions some of these further on in the list, that you can't possibly be happy outside of the group. So when they show a drama or a video about somebody who's left, they will always portray them as being unhappy and sullen and depressed and missing the organization. I miss my parents, I miss my friends, I miss God. They never show the people who are like, life is so much better now. Because that's what they do. They try and manipulate you. They control your emotions by making you think that the world is a terrible place, that you can't possibly be happy if you're in it. You have to be part of their group. So it mentions terrible consequences if you leave, hell, demon possession, incurable diseases, accidents, suicide, insanity, 10,000 reincarnations, etc. That's a different one. I'm assuming that part would fit a different cult group, but anyway. So basically terrible things are going to happen to you if you leave. You will no longer have God's protection, even though you really don't have God's protection when you're part of it, because things happen to you. When good things happen, it's a blessing from God. When bad things happen, it's time and unforeseen circumstances, and it's the evil world that we live in. Gotcha. Shunning of those who leave, fear of being rejected by friends and family. Well, we all know that one. That one's pretty well known. Never a legitimate reason to leave. Those who leave are weak, undisciplined, unspiritual, worldly, brainwashed by family or counselor, or seduced by money, sex, or rock and roll. I love that little bit on the end. Yeah. What is it like this? Yeah. Okay. You may leave because you did something, but you may leave because you've discovered that there's too much going on and you can't be a party to that anymore. And to them, that's not a good reason to leave. They just think you're brainwashed by family or counselor, or I guess you could say by extension, apostates, or, you want to sin. That's the other thing that, a lot of groups say that, they're just wanting to sin. No, not necessarily. They're just wanting to be not part of this organization. And organizations similar to that, Somebody asked me, well, which group is it? Which is the true religion? I don't know. Do you? I don't know. There's lots of groups. I haven't discovered them all. Or maybe none, A person can have can be spiritual and have their own sense of spirituality that doesn't involve a building and some people and some elders or whatnot. I don't think it has to be. It can be a personal thing. For me, it's a personal thing, so I don't need it. I don't need to be one of Jehovah's Witnesses to discover the truth. I can tell you, I don't know where the truth is necessarily, but I can tell you, this ain't it. Okay. And the last one that it mentions is threats of harm to ex-member and family, threats of cutting off friends and family. It's mentioned in orange. So obviously that's going to be people who are in that position to where, they have got something on you, that they could take away your friends and family. And that is the end of the bite model. Cheers. Thank you so much for bearing with me through my awkward, clumsy journey through the bite model that took forever. I still got lots of things to do around the house, but I happen to have, actually because of COVID-19, one of my clients is closed for the month, So I ended up moving things around and getting a day off during the week. Unheard of. So yes, I have a few minutes that I was able to record this, and I'm happy to spend it talking to you. I thank you for coming to my channel. I'll try and keep things up and come up with something new for next week. I appreciate everybody's comments and likes and shares that you can do, and subscribe if you're not subscribed. You can even support me on Patreon. So far, what I've been doing is releasing things a little bit early for my one Patreon supporter. So hopefully that's good enough for now. Eventually, I'll have some merchandise that I can make available for people as a reward. But that's, for future. And that's it. So I hope that you have an awesome day, an awesome weekend, and an awesome next week. And I will talk to you next week. Bye.